really appreciate you. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. We are here with Richard Kinney and your web guys. So, just really excited about learning about websites, and web traffic, especially when it comes to visibility and traffic. Christine, I know that you had kind of introduced Richard to our network and everybody, and he's just a new friend to the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you guys connected, and maybe Rich can share his story as well?
Oh, I'm so excited to have Richard today. I know his wife Ashley really well, and they work together as a team on your web guys. And so I know Ashley does a lot of the branding, and Richard is your techie whiz guy in the back making magic happen on those websites. And thank goodness for him, because some of us just like to make things look pretty, and other people like to actually know what they're doing in the geeky side of it. So I'm telling you, I'm really looking forward to what Richard has to say today.
This is going to be fun. Richard, can you share with us a little, bit of your story of how you got into the kind of the marketing tech game?
Sure. So there's the long version and the short version. I guess I'll keep it the short version. So I'm personally, I wasn't a geek in high school. I didn't even really log on to the internet until 1998. So I was kind of late to that game. I got into this industry because I saw a need. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a geek. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. Specifically a salesperson. And long story short, I got tired of knocking on doors in the Texas heat. And so I thought I was going to build a website to get repeat and referral business. And sat down with a geek friend of mine from high school and started building a website. And in the process of doing that, saw a link somewhere that said, webmasters, click here to make money. And I was like, oh, I'm a webmaster now. Sure. Click. I like to make money. And went through that process of learning how to build a website, and never actually finished it, ironically, because the affiliate program that I found, webmasters, click here to make money. It taught me how to manipulate Google, how to make sure that websites at the top of the page rank. And I was what was known as a traffic broker or an affiliate marketer. Did that for quite some time. Was able to quit my day job in 2000 and opened up Your Web Guys in 2004 because we had moved. Ashley and I got married at 18, right out of high school. It wasn't real smart, but we didn't have any kids, and we decided to move to Arlington. And from there, we moved to a small town after about a decade called Red Oak, because my Boy Scout troop runs a haunted house out there, and driving from Arlington to Red Oak every weekend for a year was difficult. And gas was getting expensive. It was $1.50 a gallon. I couldn't afford that. So we decided to move to Red Oak. And when we moved to Red Oak, we opened a photography studio on a lark for Ashley. I was just going to keep doing the traffic brokering thing, but as we were getting the photography studio built out and all the neighbors come to say hi and figure out what's going on, it's like, oh, well, it's a photography studio. Well, what do you do? I'm a webmaster, I guess. And as soon as I said that, everybody, oh, well, our website needs this, or our domain's that, or it's like, oh, I guess I can help. And that's when I realized that the small business market was horribly underserved by the web development industry. So it's really underserved. I mean, on one end of the spectrum, you've got the do-it-yourself solutions, the Wix and the Weebly's, which are free and you get what you pay for. And then you got the next level up, which is the $10,000 firm in Deep Ellum that has antique bicycles hung on the wall for some reason. They charge a fortune. So we're kind of in between that. We provide a good quality website that can get search engine traffic and without costing a fortune. So that's kind of the small short.
And how long ago was that when you started tinkering with websites?
Well, when I started personally, it was 98 is when I started working on it. But like I said, that was just personal business. In 2004 is whenever we opened Your Web Guys.
Got it. Love it. So, man, 20 plus years tinkering on these 25 years almost tinkering on these websites. And gosh, it's always nice to know somebody who's been doing something for longer than, 10 years or so. It's just nice to put in the thousands of hours of working on something. So thanks for sharing that story. And I know Ashley's your partner in Web Genius and branding and visibility and all those good things. And today we're focusing on a topic of visibility for your marketing. And what better guest than to have somebody who can drive traffic, bring a little bit more eyeballs to what you're doing, and your product or service, your cause or company doing good in the world. And that's who we serve, Richard. Our network serves causes and companies doing good in the world. We like to see those positive messages going out. This negative Nancy news stuff is not really our game. Fear-based stuff is not really something we play in unless absolutely makes sense or it's necessary for a particular reason. But other than that, we just keep it super positive. And so you're a perfect person to come and share with us. I know that you have something to share as far as some visual goodies for us, and thank you for kind of getting that ready and sharing some of your slides with us so we can get our brains remembering what you're going to be sharing with us today. And I'm excited to learn. I'm a sponge. I just want to learn from my friends and associates in the marketing space. We have 60 plus team members in our network right now, and Richard, you're an honored guest in the room, so we're just glad to have you. And there's some of us even in the green room waiting for questions and answers that are going to be joining with us live, and so that's going to be fun later on for question and answer time. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, while Richard gets his screen shared here right now, put some questions in the comments about anything having to do with your website, anything to have to do with your traffic, more eyeballs on something, kind of your visibility portion of your website and how to get more traffic, those kind of things. Those questions will help us toward the end of Richard's master class here. So this will be fun.
Drinking from a fire hose sometimes, so be careful. Let me see if I can share this screen easier than I'm thinking I can. Yeah, that's not what I was thinking. All right, let me just set up my slideshow here, and then I will share the screen.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
I didn't realize my camera went blank whenever I go off screen. That's fine. All right, I'm going to share my screen now.
Hey, also in the comments, if you can let us know where you're tuning in from, what channel you're on, where you're from physically. I know that I'm on the coast of Oregon. Christine's in the Dallas-Fort Worth kind of area. Richard, are you also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? Is that right?
Yes, we are. Yep.
Awesome. I know Jennifer's in the green room, and she's up in God's country. She's having some fun up there. She'll let us know in the comments kind of where she's from as well. So that'll be fun. I was born in Dallas, Richard. So just watch out. We got a trifecta here of some Dallas Fort Worth people. My parents went to Christ for the Nations Bible College right down the street.
I know where Christ for the Nation is. Yeah, that's down in Oak Cliff, just down from us.
That's it. All right, here we go.
All right. So this is a presentation that I put together a while ago. I've truncated it considerably, trying to keep to the 30-minute window that we have here. So I'll try to be done by about 10:40. But ultimately, the premise of the whole presentation is only suckers pay for website traffic. So, you've heard of Google AdWords, you've heard of Facebook ads, all these ways to pay for traffic. That's really sucker play when you get right down to it. Or, if you have a ton of money. So the way I look at it is Google and Facebook, they need other stuff from you. They don't need their money, your money. That's why Coke and Victoria's Secret exists. So let's kind of explore that and figure out how to get the most out of your website and overall web presence without breaking the bank.
Now, just to be clear, when you say Coke, you mean the drink, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just making sure. I
don't think that. I think that violates Google's terms of service. I'm not positive, but
yeah.
So here's what we're going to talk about today. The big picture. So kind of the overarching concepts that a lot of times geeks forget about. They assume you kind of know the basics. So I'm going to cover those briefly and make sure that we're all on the same page. I'm going to talk about what is SEO. It's search engine optimization, but what exactly is its core and how does it work and how do you get the traffic from it? What is social media, right? A lot of folks think that social media is just Facebook or is ways to get online and do things that share pictures of the kids. There's a lot more to it than that. We're also going to get into the algorithm. Algorithm is what decides the rankings or the SERPs, which also stands for search engine placement. Search engine, good Lord, SERPs, search engine results placements. So what a SERP is, and we're going to get into a lot of alphabet soup today. So I expect questions on anything that I cover if I don't explain what it is, but I try real hard not to speak geek. I try to translate as much as possible, but the algorithm is what decides those placements. And we're going to talk about how to tickle the algorithm just the right way. We're also going to talk about Google Analytics and some major things that are coming down the pike with Google Analytics and ways that you need to be prepared for it. And then we're going to talk about some big no-nos. You hear a lot of tips and tricks out there, people saying, this is how you trick Google. Well, there's really no way to trick Google, or at least if there is, you don't want to. And we'll talk about some of those. All right, so let's start with the big picture. Okay, what you need to know before we go any further. Okay, this is basic stuff. Like I said, I don't want to assume if you do know this stuff, then pay attention anywhere, because it's a refresher course. So your website. Okay, the website is the center of your marketing universe. It is where all leads come from. It's where all people go to find out information about you. Sometimes it's your first impression, but ultimately you've got to think of it as a funnel. Okay, this is your website. It's a giant funnel. At the top of the funnel is stuff that we'll talk about. At the bottom of the funnel is basically your goals. What do you want them to do at the bottom of the funnel? Typically, it's give you money, right? Fill out a form, whatever it is. Those are your goals. Okay, they're to give you money, sign up, get into your onboarding process, whatever it is. That's the dollar signs there. Okay, now at the top of the funnel, what goes in? Well, at the top of the funnel is different ways of getting traffic. So you got search engine traffic, you've got social media, you've got your print media, business cards, brochures, word of mouth, friends and family, or good customers, and then other advertising, TV, video, radio, whatever it is. Now, all of those different ways of putting traffic into your website, only two of them I can help with today. And that is search engine traffic and social media. Okay. Those are the two things we're going to cover. The other stuff, that's up to you. Word of mouth comes from people liking and knowing you and talking about you. So you got to do that. And print media, you got to print those cards up. I can't help with that stuff. Other advertising, radio, TV spots, whatever, that's stuff that we aren't going to mess with. But here's the funny thing. Neither of these things that I can help with are going to do any good if your funnel is not right. So we got to make sure that you're making the money down to the bottom before we even worry about putting stuff in the top. Okay, so we're going to focus on the funnel for just a minute. So what does a funnel need to do? Okay, what is a website funnel? First and foremost, it must be online. Okay. A lot of people wonder. It's like that we actually get a lot of folks that pay for a website and then come back to us and say, okay, well, why do I have to pay a monthly fee? Well, because your website has to be online. It doesn't exist in vacuum. It has to have hosting. It has to have maintenance. It has to be not, being attacked by Russian agents and all the stuff that we deal with on a regular basis. So your website has to be online. So if it's offline, if it's broken, if you haven't looked recently, if you don't have monitoring, get it, because your website is the center of your marketing universe. You need to know if there's ever a malfunction or if it's ever offline. You also need to know that it's loading quickly. That has to do with traffic, has to do with the server that you're on. Make sure that these things are not overlooked and not assumed. This is the center of everything. Next thing, it must be easy to navigate. Now, what do I mean by that? Again, it's a funnel, right? They come in on the top and there's a billion different ways for them to go to the bottom, but you have to make sure that it's not clogged. Your funnel isn't clogged. It's also not leaky, right? So if you have links to other websites or things like that, those are traffic links. So, or leaks, and you don't want to have those on there because they're not going to do you any good. You need to make sure that the path from the top of your funnel to the bottom of the funnel is clear and not clogged and not leaking. Okay, that means it's easy to navigate and people get where you want them to go, not necessarily where they want to go, but where you want them to go in a very effective way. Again, it should not be clogged. It should lead the prospect to action. If anybody has heard of a term called call to action, then you have to have those just about on every page. Ultimately, you're grabbing the customer by the nose when they hit the website and taking them where you want them to go. It also has to be mobile optimized and for tablets. Okay. Google now is looking has implemented a program called mobile first design. That's what they want you to do. They want you to make sure that the website is designed on a mobile device first, then on a desktop. So a lot of designers look at websites on a big screen all day long and they develop them that way. That's not what Google wants anymore. And Google is the one that we try to please. So we do what they say. But keep in mind that mobile isn't as simple as, an iPhone width anymore. Now you've got not only big giant iPhones, but you also have, like my phone flips open into a tablet size. And it's amazing how often, and it's a smaller tablet. It's amazing how often I see websites on my phone when it's flipped open that just do not look good because nobody thought to make them for that size. Okay. So a tablet is not a big screen. A big screen is not an iPhone, and an iPhone is not a smartwatch. All of these things have to be considered to make sure that your website is working properly. You should be using a technology called mobile responsive technology so that the website actually responds to the device it's being viewed on. That's imperative, because if you ever look at your analytics data, you'll see people hitting your website, and most of them are going to be on mobile devices, and most of them are going to be different sizes. And it's really, really hard to make sure that everything looks good on every device that's being viewed on, not to mention every browser, because different browsers parse data differently. So your Google Chromes, you're going to parse differently than your Safaris and your Microsoft Edges. So it has to be cross-browser compatible. And it has to be cross-device compatible. This is
Richard, I know a lot of people are going to have questions about that last one right there. So put them in the comments. I know you're going to have questions about, what about this? And what about this? And how do I size it? And what was that called again? Mobile this or that? But get ready, because those questions are coming.
I'm always prepared. I'm always good for questions. So the next thing is you must have correct and current information. Okay. In other words, good content. We're going to talk about content a lot once we kind of cover these basics, because content is basic. Okay. Now here's the good news. And an offer for just you guys. And I might be jumping the gun here, but we have a system called the website healthcheck.net. If you go there and you put in your domain name, we will check all of this stuff and more. It's just kind of a quick thing. It's kind of like going to the checkup for your doctor every year. Do your website, same kind of thing. Kids, doctors, pets, website. Okay. It all needs to be checked on regularly, and we'll check all this stuff that I'm talking about. All right. So let's move on then to what is SEO. Okay. Search engine optimization is a mini splendored thing. So I'm gonna do the old standby here, and I'm going to pull out the old dictionary, Merriam-Webster. What is search engine optimization? Okay, so the search engine optimization is the process of maximizing the number of visitors to a particular website by ensuring that the site appears high on the list of results returned by a search engine. Okay, good stuff, right? That's important. Here, let's talk about this. We also need keywords and phrases and information, informative word used. We got page rank, a value assigned to backlinks, metadata. Hold on, algorithm. We got keyword density, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg. Okay, all of this stuff goes into SEO. Now, here's the big secret that very few geeks and certainly no SEO people want you to know. None of this matters a hill of beans unless you have one thing and one thing only, and that is you have to have content. Okay? Here's what we're talking about here. Google, the number one website in the world, and the first place that we go when we want content. Actually, let's back up. The reason why we're all online, right? The reason why we have these devices in our pockets, the reason why we are connected 24/7 with multiple devices to the internet is we want content. We want to read words, look at pictures, watch video, and buy stuff, right? Google, the first place that we go when we want content, produces precisely zero. That is mind-boggling when you think about it. The first place that we go when we want something, we are guaranteed not to get what we want. Google is just really, really good at showing us where the content we want is. So keep in mind, it's a symbiotic relationship. Google wants to list and Google needs to list your website, right? If they didn't list other people's websites, they wouldn't exist. No one would go to Google. The trick is to convince Google that your content, your website is better than however thousand many others are in the similar key phrase search. Okay. And that goes into the algorithm that we were talking about. I'm not going to get into the specifics on the algorithm right now, but keep in mind that the biggest chunk of the algorithm that decides those SERPs is content. It's the thing Google doesn't have. So think about your content cadence. Adding content to your website on a regular basis is imperative. All right. So we'll talk about content a little bit more here in a second too, but let's talk about social media and why does everybody think it's so important? Okay. Well, social media, and I'm not going to pull out Merriam-Webster's again. I hope I don't remember, quite frankly, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Think of in social media as word of mouth writ large. Okay. So in other words, you're at a cocktail party. Man, people go to cocktail parties anymore, but let's say that you're at a party and somebody mentions something about how, oh man, it was awesome. I got this great whatever. Okay. Well, social media is that, only with a crowd of 500 people rather than 10 or 5 standing around a cocktail. Or you think about the water cooler at work. See, again, I'm dating myself, but these things are what social media is today. Is those things that we used to do back in the day before social media. It's the water cooler. It's the cocktail party. So the important thing with social media is, strangely enough, be social. Okay. There's 2 parts to social media. There's the media part, which is the content we've been talking about, but there's also the social part. You have to like things. You have to comment on other people's stuff. You have to give thumbs up to things. You have to comment and share and do all the social stuff, right? Because the more you do that, the more respected your channel, your platform, or whatever your whatever it's called on that specific social media platform, your wall, your whatever, is more respected by the system, and therefore it's going to share it more often automatically. Now, here's the other thing, especially in social media: humanize your company. Okay. Remember, people do business with people, not companies. So a real good example of this, and this is a while ago, so it's not quite as poignant, but I don't know if you remember the big oil spill in the Gulf by BP, British Petroleum. They made a movie out of it. It was not the PR nightmare that, like, for instance, the Exxon Valdez was back in the 80s. And the big difference between the two, I mean, it was actually worse. The spill was much worse. The reason why BP didn't get nailed as hard is because they actually have a very effective social media presence. And what does that mean? Well, when this PR situation hit, back with the Exxon Valdez, it was Exxon, this big nameless, faceless corporation that everybody hated. It's big oil, it's evil, they just wanted money and they destroyed the environment. Well, when BP did basically the same thing, they had people out on social media acting as BP employees, talking about and making friends with other people. So if you were friends with one of those people that was a BP employee, you'd see that story on the news about how awful BP is and evil. And it's like, wait a minute, I know George. George works for BP. They aren't evil. He wouldn't work for an evil company. And it mitigated that disaster considerably, right? So we also do that about anything else. Whenever we buy anything, we think about whether we like, know, and trust somebody. So use your social media to help people like, know, and trust you before they've ever met you. Update often and share good content. It's back to content again, right? We have to make sure that the information you're putting out is good and on a regular basis to get the attention of the bots. And again, go to website health check and we'll check this stuff for you. Okay. All right. So let's talk about social media marketing. Okay. We've got 3 different things that we've talked about so far. Here's the interesting thing. All 3 of those things are interconnected. Okay. So social media is now paying more attention to shares and likes. That's what I was talking about a minute ago. The bots, the algorithm they use to share content to people that you don't know is based on how often something that you have posted has been shared and liked. If your content is not compelling enough to share, then it will not show up in the others' news feeds. Okay. So that's what it's all about. It's not just content. It's good content. It's quote unquote compelling content. And that's very important too. If your reach is limited with Facebook, then you will get very little to no traffic from them either. So in other words, if you don't have a ton of friends, Facebook ain't going to send you more traffic. It's just the way it works. And this is the most important thing. You do not own your social media platforms. Okay. In other words, as soon as Facebook decides to do something stupid, they can do it and you can't stop them. Here's an example. We're banned from Facebook. Your webguys.net, you cannot link from Facebook to your webguys.net. Why? Nobody knows. Can you call Facebook to tell them that they're foolish for blocking us? No. Can you appeal it? No. I have no idea why we're blocked. We just are. And we have been for years. So they just decided to do it, and there is no way to back out of it. There's no way to appeal it, and there's no way to get it resolved. So don't spend a ton of time on social media. It's only 1/3 of the system, right? And it's not imperative. You can have great SEO and an even better website without social media, because you simply don't own them. You also don't own SEO, but the good news is they need you. It's a symbiotic relationship. So remember, it's not social media marketing, it's online marketing. Do all of them. Don't just focus on one. So in that vein, let's talk about how they work together. So Googlebot is using social media interactions to form its opinions. Okay. It sounds like a really bad 80s movie, but Googlebot's trying to become human. So Googlebot is the robot that decides, or that spiders the internet. That's why, they're called spiders, because it's the web. They crawl the web. So Googlebot is trying to develop opinions. And the reason why is because they want to emulate where if I were to say to you, hey, do you know any good Italian food places around here? You say, yeah, there's Five Guys from Italy, or there's Johnny Carino or whatever. This one's really good. That one's not, right? It's an opinion-based answer. Whereas if you ask Google now, do you know any good Italian food places near me on Google Maps? It's going to say this one is closest. This one has some reviews, right? It doesn't have the ability to give you opinion. It can't say this one is best. Same thing with content in general. Okay. They can't say to you, this is the best article. All they can say is this article on the content that you're looking for, this question that you've asked, you've searched for, it tickles our algorithm in a certain way. And that's not an opinion. So what they're doing is they're using human interactions to try to form their opinion. So let's say that you have an article that you write on your website, a blog post about XYZ, whatever. And then you share that article on Facebook. And you say, hey guys, check out my new blog post. Tell me what you think. And that post on Facebook gets, 25 likes and 5 comments. Okay. Google looks at that and they say, wow, this must be compelling content, because it caused 25 different humans to click a button. And it caused 5 humans to actually type something. We can't tell if it's good or bad, but we know that it compelled them to do something. And keep in mind that Google doesn't like Facebook, right? Or Twitter, or any of the social media platforms. Okay. So what Google does is it attributes all that compellingness that it's seeing on that Facebook post to what that Facebook post is linking to. That's your article. Okay. So now your article is quote unquote compelling content. Okay. The more interactions, the more compelling the content, because Google is seeing humans take action. It has compelled humans to do something. That happens, and the entire site will start to see a lift. Keep in mind, search engines list web pages, not websites. Okay. So every single post that you write on your website, every post that you share from your website to your social media platforms, all those comments, right? A rising tide floats all boats. The more often that happens, the more likely Google is to take notice and say, hey, we need to start sending some traffic over here. And that's how all this stuff works. It starts with content. It has to use content to add to your website and make sure that your website is the source of all of your content emanating out to your social media platforms, not the other way around. Okay, so let's talk about the algorithm for a second, how Google thinks and what motivates it. Excuse me. All right, so we've been talking about it. Content is king, obviously, right? Google needs to see your content. They want to see it on a regular basis. How often should you add content? And what am I talking about? Basically, it's blogging, right? Blog about your industry, your company, your work, and your employees. Okay. And grandma's cookie recipe every now and again is not bad, right? It's not going to get you social media or search engine traffic, but it's going to help with that like, know, and trust concept. Okay. So content is king. How often do you add content? Daily would be best, multiple times a day, but you've got a business to run, so that's not really logical. So look at it like this. Monthly is about as little as you can get away with, but the more often, the better. We suggest to our clients weekly, just because that's a good way to kind of get into a cadence. Every Tuesday, post an article. Okay. Or if you have the ability to do case studies, talk about what you've done for a client. And here's why. Because search engines list web pages, not websites. like I said a minute ago, but the way we search, and this is actually new information I haven't added to the show yet. So I'm going to talk about something off script here. Think about the way we search. Okay. The way human beings search is weird. Back in the day, if we had a leaky faucet, you would go to the yellow pages, pour the internet, you go to the yellow pages, you'd look up plumbers, right? That's why you got, AAA, Auger, plumbing, and, all these, it's alphabetical, right? They were competing. Now, if we have a leaky faucet, we don't go to Google and type in plumber near me. I mean, you can, but most people don't. Most of the time, people type in leaky faucet. Think about that. We search for our pain. So if you're writing articles about how you're relieving the pain points for your clients, how many other people out there have a leaky faucet just like you fixed for the Joneses? Right? And that's what Google is looking for. They want to look for answers. They want to look for connections. And then you post that Facebook or that link to your article on Facebook. People share it, say, hey, I had a leaky faucet. This helped. This is how you do it. This is great. Or hey, can you call me? I need to help with my leaky faucet. And then Google says, wow, leaky faucet, right? And it gets all kinds of into a little spider trap is what that's called. So keep in mind that every article you write for your website is another chance for a top 10 search result. So optimize each individual page, each individual update with your website with specific key phrases. And also remember, it takes time, right? Don't expect that instantly, as soon as you write these articles, you're going to get a ton of traffic. But as you get, as you hit, one article that gets 10, 20 hits a month, and then you got some articles that get only 1 or 2, you get some that get 150 hits a month, right? It just depends on how it tickles the algorithm. The idea is spread a wide net, okay? Because if you have 500 articles, each of them getting 1 or 2 hits, that's 150 or 1,500 hits, right? And then you throw in some that are getting really big traffic, 500, and then all of a sudden, with all that traffic to your site, Google says, wow, this whole website needs traffic, and it boosts the whole thing. A rising tide floats all boats. So I really don't want to talk about this right now, just because it's a deep conversation. But keywords in the domain versus brandability. Google looks at keywords in the domain very specifically. It's because they assume people are stupid and they type into Google's search bar the name of a company like Your Web Guys. So if I didn't own yourwebguys.net, Google wouldn't send them to there if my website name was DFW Web Designers. Okay. But if somebody types in DFW Web Designers, then my key phrase would be my domain name, and the odds of it getting number 1 are much, much higher. So that's something we can discuss on the side if that's something you're wondering about. But keywords in the domain are important, and you can create aliases if your domain is already established, where it's the same website. Just like if I went by Bill, I'm still me. So your website can go by a totally different domain name. But again, we'll talk about that another time. So, like I was talking about, social media, SEO, and compelling content is what it all matters together. The content is king. You have to have that information on there, and the website has to be the center of it and emanating out content from the website to your social media platforms. All right, so I'm running short on time, so I'm going to blow through some stuff real quick, okay? And this is why, because Google Analytics is going away. Yes, you heard me right. Google Analytics is about to go away. Okay. This is a huge issue. About this time next year, all of your analytics data that you've collected for years is going to be deleted. Let me let that sink in for a second. All the traffic, all the records, all the knowledge, all the data that you have gathered over the years about your website and how people use it is going to be deleted.
Is there a way to save it, Richard?
Yes, you can save it in a CSV file, which is useless. So what's happening is Google has gone from Universal Analytics, which is actually GA3, the 3rd version of analytics, to GA4. And they are changing everything, how it saves the data, how it logs the data, and everything else. And because of that, the old data is no longer compatible with the new data. So that got us thinking, because, in the past, whenever analytics updated, we just updated our clients' stuff and it was no big deal. We just had to do some work on the back end the customers never saw. But now they're going to see it when all their data goes away. So we did some research, and just in general, we really don't like the concept of SaaS, or software as a service. Okay. Because like I was saying about social media, you don't own it, right? If they change something, then you're screwed and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, Google Analytics is software as a service, right? It's free, and we do it because it's awesome, and because it's free. But a couple of years ago, there was a bunch of hubbub about data being saved that wasn't necessarily to be saved or shared. And this is during the election, and a lot of weird shenanigans were going on. A big chunk of that was Google tracking data. And we help Google do that by adding analytics data to our web or code to our website. And here's the funny thing. Google doesn't share equally back. The content that they share, the analytics data they share back is actually sampling. It's not one-to-one. So if your website shows that on analytics that you got 300 visitors, they think you had 300 visitors approximately, because they have too much data to go and say, okay, well, this is actually there was actually 298 or whatever the specific number was. So the solution is to get you off of software as a service. And we can now do that. We're doing that for all of our clients. We're going to be setting up self-hosted analytics data that is tracking, that is not being shared with anyone else. So, those little cookie notifications you're seeing on all the websites, that comes from Europe. They passed a law saying Google can't track that stuff without your knowledge. America still hasn't done anything. So most American websites don't have to have it. But if you do business in Europe, you do. But with this system that I'm talking about, upgrading our people to, you wouldn't have to have that notification because you're not sharing the data. And it's also real data. It's one-to-one, not sampling. And we can save all of the old analytics data in this system in a way that you can actually access it and use it. So this is something that we are rolling out. We have never, ever done work on other people's servers before. Usually if you're a client of your web guys, then we host and maintain you too. But because this is such a huge sea change in the analytics industry, we are going to be offering to do this work for any client, even if they aren't on our servers. Now, we can't guarantee that it's going to work right because servers are so random, but most of the time we'll be able to install it, and then you'll have something that you don't have to worry about somebody else screwing up in the meantime. So,
Richard, as an audience, including myself and others in the network who are tuning in, and those who are wanting to learn more, if we go to your health check website, what was the domain again?
It's websitehealthcheck.net.
Websitehealthcheck.net. If we go to that, you're going to eventually circle back with us and let us know about this upgrade and change happening with Google, right? So
yeah.
We don't need to go to another website or anything like that to check that out, right?
No, but you can do the research and make sure I'm not full of it. I always encourage that.
But ultimately, we got a smart audience, so they'll do that. But as they reach out to you and get their health check, you'll follow up with them on that, right?
Because essentially the health check is two parts. One is automated, where it's just going to kind of check all the stuff the robot checks, and then the other part is by a human. So we'll actually physically go in and check these things and talk to you about it and give you rhyme and verse about what should be done and what may be important and what may not be important. Kind of like after your checkup, the doctor says, "Hey, your LDL is a little high, but it's not bad." But these are what the numbers mean. So same kind of concept.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the big no-nos. Again, I'm running a little short on time here, so I've got 2 minutes to wrap this up, but that's good. This is the end of it. So these are big no-nos, things you should never do, okay? In general, if it sounds like it's too good to be true, it is, okay? Don't forget, you are not smarter than Google, okay? If you find something, even if it does work right now, if you think Google's going to blacklist it at some point, don't do it, because you can't get unblacklisted. Okay. And if you can't get traffic from Google and you screw up Facebook like we did, then you're out of business. So don't do that. So keyword spamming, right? A lot of people think, okay, well, if I want to optimize for leaky faucet, I'm going to type leaky faucet 500 times in the bottom of the page, and that'll get me to the top. That's not how that works. Okay. You want to think like a spider, but you want to read it like a human. So the best rule of thumb is, and we can get into like keyword density and all kinds of deep in the geek stuff here, but ultimately, as a human being, when you're writing an article, the way to think of it is, if you read your article and you think to yourself, that's a weird way to word it, then it's probably perfect. Okay. If you read your article and you don't notice any specific key phrases, then it's probably too light. And if you read your article and you say, oh my God, if they say leaky faucet one more time, I'm going to shoot myself, then it's too much. Okay. So I
like it. You're just thinking like it, like think like a spider, read like a human. That's really good. Have you thought about writing a book called Spider, Read Like a Human? Because that's a really good concept, my friend. I'm just telling you live in public right now, like that's a really good concept.
You're bucking for royalties. I see what you're doing.
I'm just saying that's a good concept. That's really good.
No, it is. That's excellent. So the next thing is hidden text, right? A lot of folks thought this is a trick a long time ago. It's like, okay, the background of my website is white, so if I make this text white, Google won't see the spamming or people won't see the spamming, and Google will give me a boost. No, you can't hide your text. You also can't make it really, really small, or put a pixel-sized image in there and put 3 paragraphs of alt data. Okay, automating anything. This is actually one of the newer issues that's coming up lately. There's a lot of AI produced content out there, and this is what we call gray hat. Okay, there's black hat SEO, which means that Google has specifically said do not do that. Okay, don't do black hat stuff. And then there's white hat. That's stuff that Google has specifically said, yes, do this. Okay, most of the stuff I talk about is white hat. Automated AI generated content, which is being produced now, is very much gray hat, and people don't know how Google is going to react to it, because ultimately right now Google can't tell. It's that good. The AI produced content is so good that Google can't tell that an AI produced it. So but at the same time, there's a lot of talk out there going, we don't want non-human produced content. So they're looking at ways to figure that out. For right now, you can get away with it. But as soon as Google figures out how not to, and they blacklist it, it becomes black hat, you're toast, and you can't undo that. So I don't suggest that, even though it's very, very appealing right now. Another one, don't overthink it. Okay. Just stick to the basics. If it sounds too good to be true, like I said, it probably is. Just write content. Give Google what it wants. Don't try to trick them. They'll give you what you want. Symbiosis. That's what we're talking about here. And remember, there's no trick to it. Okay. It's just a simple trick. Write your content. I love that. So I don't believe in get rich quick schemes, but this scheme is going to make me rich and quick. Anyway, sorry, it sucks not getting laughter whenever I make a joke, but ultimately, Ashley's laughing at me. That's good. Ultimately, it's better to be safe than sorry. So don't risk it. Just do what Google wants. Give them the content they want, and they'll give you the traffic that you're asking for. All right, so that's it. This is where I'm at. Scan this with your smartphone. It's my digital business card. You can also reach me. It's in the white background for some reason. I guess I blocked that out for some reason. My website is yourwebguys.net. You can reach me at rkinney, Kinney, at yourwebguys.net. And you can also call at 214-843-0443. So any questions?
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you. Ashley in the background. Love you guys, and appreciate you. She'll say hi, I'm sure. Hey guys. Well, good. We have some folks in the green room ready to light it up with some conversation, some questions, those kind of things. And we may have a few questions come in through comments either now or in the replay later at some point. But we'll all keep track of that. And by the way, for those who want to connect with Richard and Ashley, look them up on social media. They're very active. I've connected with them in multiple places, and so just they're approachable. As you can tell, they're very approachable, and they want to be able to serve you and help protect you against all the slimy, spammy, scammy things out there around websites and visibility and SEO. I had one client years ago. Our team members take care of these, like you guys take care of these kind of clients now. But years ago, I had an attorney come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm spending couple $1,000s a month on SEO." And I'm like, okay, well, what kind of return are you getting? That's great. You should probably be getting $10,000, $20,000 in business every month. You know what I mean? Like what, or at least a ton of eyeballs or something, right? So what kind of metric? Like, what are you seeing? He's like, I think I got one client. I'm like, that better be a great client. And then
right.
we shifted some things up for them, ended up taking that same budget, building a better website, getting some content out there like you're talking about, going more organic with it, like really hitting it hard, produced a video for them, did all sorts of stuff, all the stuff you guys do. And sure enough, the business started, they created a funnel. The business started really rocking. So I highly recommend what Richard and Ashley are doing for you as a holistic approach to your website, your funnel, your social media, and your content. Like hit it hard, like connect with them. That'll be good. All right. So let's invite everybody to the kind of back from the green room. We got some of our team members here waiting for the party time. This is the after party right here. This is fun times. So hey, there's Ashley. She's joining. I like it.
Hi.
Good, good.
It's good,
I
Trevor.
think,
Yeah, slide over.
You get no chair.
hey, there she is. There she is. Good to see you, and you're welcome to join in the fun. This is our little after party where we're asking questions, making comments, what stood out to you. I'm just going to lead a little discussion here, and that way it'll be beneficial for everybody who sticks around for the bonus content right here. So this will be really good. All right. Well, good. So first of all, does anybody have any questions? They just can't wait. I know, Christine, you gotta jump to another meeting here in a few minutes. Before we, jump into like introducing each other and all that kind of stuff, can you share with us a little bit about yourself? And then also, if you have any questions or things that stood out to you from what Richard was sharing today.
Well, I'm the DFW networking diva, aka Christine, and I just adore Richard and Ashley. I got to say, having them today was fantastic. Obviously, with networking, that's what I do, networking and marketing. So I love connecting people. So I was so happy we could pull them into our little giver marketing circle because, oh my goodness, Richard, that was great information. You just nailed it today. I was just having a conversation recently with one of my clients about content, and they're like, well, what do I do, right? What problem can you solve, right? You hit the nail on the head with that. Do you have any other, tidbits of wisdom that you want to share on that topic? I'm sure everybody is all ears.
Yeah. I mean, really, when it comes down to it just talk about, a lot of people get so focused on like bullet points. I run into that a lot with small business owners. They're so used to working with brochures and they're like, I only have so much space and they give me content that's just bullet points. Like the internet's wide open, right? You can make as big a page as you need to. So talk. And I go back to, when you're giving a pitch to a client, when you're talking, you have scripts that you use, just type them out. Those are blog posts, don't overthink it.
I have one more thing on that one. He talked a lot about content, but we're all on today and always want to look our best. People see things. It's 1,000 words for each picture that you see, right? But people don't think about that with the website. They'll go with stock. They'll go with words, but you have to have the visual. People connect with visual. So make sure that your image connects with your brand, that they coincide. There are a lot of times that people will pick stock images. That's not custom. People see it. They scroll by. They're not going to stay on your site. You want them to stay on your site because it's compelling, like he said, but visual. Do a custom photo shoot. Talk about your branding. Make sure that your brand, your product, your service matches the images that you have on there, not just photography, but who you are as a company. If you happen to be a trainer, don't go on a white background. Make sure you include some environment in that because a white background can be used for anyone. And that said, if you're a doctor, you probably don't want to go outside for your pictures because that's really a sterile environment. So make sure you're looking for your audience, for your image, you're relatable, you're genuine, and your product will come out that way. It's very relatable that way.
And on that note, remember that, this is important. You have two audiences that you're trying to please and to provide. Okay. You've got humans, which like pretty pictures. And what Ashley's talking about is very important because humans bring you money, but robots bring you humans and robots don't have eyes. So it's a double-edged sword. Okay. You have to make sure that you not only have good looking pictures, but good content too. The text, that's all that a robot can see is text. 1,000 pictures worth 1,000 words, but only to something that has eyeballs. So keep that in mind. You have two audiences you have to.
And make sure you name those pictures with a name that the spider crawlers can recognize,
Yep.
Right? So
And
don't name it,
and all yep.
white picture, pretty bow,
right.
Unless that relates to the content on that page.
Or just a random string of letters and numbers. That's what it normally is.
Yes, that'll get you far in the Google searches. Yes.
Hey, a little bit of bonus branding content discussion here around our websites, and we always talk about imagery and language. That's really what people experience, at least on a basic level. There's so much more. We talk about the 5 senses and all sorts of other things too, but image and language. Great job, Ashley. Thank you for adding that tip on the branding side, because if you're not branded well, we don't want to go public. We don't go public in our pajamas, right? Like we just don't do that, right?
So
So
did during COVID.
right. Well, good. Thank you, Christine Dean. Appreciate you, and look forward to next week and talking more. Jennifer, share with us a little bit about kind of what you took away today and how it complements what you're doing. And we're kind of a team here, so we're going to have some fun just talking about that.
Yeah, when you talked about like the gray hat and the AI generated content, I'm originally a copywriter. And so there's been a lot of struggle in the copywriting world of people saying, well, I can just get this tool for $50 and I'll write all my blog posts. And I've been trying to warn people about that, because even though like this technology seems to be really good compared to like some of the translation technology, that if you actually speak the language, you know that it's not it's not good. But I've been telling people that at some point your audience will be able to tell, like even your audience is going to be able to tell that it's not personable and that there's no branding to it. It's just generic content that's going to be pushed out all over the place. And in the long run, it's going to cost you money, because it's not just about getting the words out there and ranking. It really is about that experience, and the AI just can't deliver the way a human can.
So let's talk about that for just a second, Richard and Ashley. We sometimes recommend tools that help people just get started. Like they just get their brain like in creativity mode, but that's oftentimes because we're nerds about marketing and all that, right? So that's we know what works, right? Like Jennifer is saying, and you guys are saying, we know what works. So let's take that and just get some practice, get some of the tools going. That's fine if it helps you create maybe some concepts or ideas, but you got to go through that and put your own flavor into these robotic produce the content. Like you got to put your brand into it, right, Ashley?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and ultimately, we used to call that content, and because even before the AI was writing it, there was like Mad Lib style content where you just kind of move some words around, and we called that spider food, because it feeds the spiders, but it doesn't feed the humans. And like I said, you've got spiders bringing humans, but the humans bringing money, so you got to convince both of them. And that kind of content with the AI has no soul. Is really the best way to put it. It's soulless content, and people don't do business with people that have no souls. So you got to have your content talking about how you solve people's pain, not just random words strung together by an artificial intelligence.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah,
nice.
It goes right back to that, what Bob Berg talks about, the know, like, and trust, and being real and authentic and raw, and just, the more real that you are, the more relatable you are. So yeah, thank you so much, Richard. This was amazing content, amazing information that you offered up to us. So on that note, is there any other questions in the room?
Stacy, what stood out to you as we maybe look at the comments and see if there's anything else?
For me, it was about, I didn't know the Google Analytics was kind of changing and all those. So that's really good to know. So I think a lot of our audience will be happy to have that too, information. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep.
What was that phrase, Richard? Think like a spider. What's the rest?
Think like a spider, read like a human.
Come on, that's Ashley. You guys got to write a book. I would literally flip through that. I would love to, at least a video. Like,
right? Yeah, that's a vlog at the very least.
At the very least, that's a great title. I mean, I
told him there are 5 books that we need to write. One about the image brand consulting, one about the web design, how we got started. Just we've got a whole lot that we could write.
Talk about our marriage too.
We've been married for 28 years. So
woo, yes, I love that. Well, cool. So thanks again. If there's any folks that have comments either now or if you're watching the replay and you want to pop in a comment, we're gonna be crawling around, kind of just checking things out, making sure you guys have your questions answered. We're gonna tag Richard and the company and Ashley in the comments and everything, so that they can kind of keep track of everything. So that'll be super fun. But anything else that anybody else wants to share? I certainly enjoyed this today. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. Thank you so much. I don't see any comments coming through anywhere, but have a great day, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, so fun.